Good morning and welcome back to Planet Althistory. Today we are going to discuss what if Persia conquered Greece. There were of course several Greco-Persian wars, and we are talking about the Achaemenid Empire. And of course the city-states of Greece, Athens and Sparta being the most prominent one. The Achaemenid Empire expanded very fast and conquered many places. It also conquered Anatolia and knocked on the door of good old Greece. How did the Greco-Persian War start? To put it in simple terms, the Ionian Revolt in 499 BC was the main catalyst for the Greco-Persian Wars in general. The revolution or the revolt lasted from 499 until 493 BC. There was a huge dissatisfaction of the Greek cities with the tyrants that were appointed by the Persians. So the Persians, they had a very indirect rule, and they also appointed people or main city holders or tyrants, as they were called, who would do what they are told to do by the Persians. And one of these tyrants, he stood out in all of this revolt. The tyrant of Miletus was called Aristagoras. Aristagoras, he wanted to conquer Naxos, small islands, and if you play Europa Universalis 4, you should know where they are. So these small islands, they are in front of Anatolia, and this tyrant Aristagoras, he had also the agreement with the Persian satrap Artaphernes. So Artaphernes, he should help him to conquer these islands. But at the same time, there was this rebellion. So what happened was that this guy, well, he just tried then to, go along with the rebellion and switch the sides. The Ionian Revolt is seen as first part of the Greco-Persian War because most inhabitants of Western Anatolia were closely related with the Greeks, and peace was made between Ionia and Persia, and apparently all seemed fair. However, it only took 1 year where the real invasion of Greece would start. Mardonius, the son-in-law of Darius, was someone who repeatedly wanted the war with Greece. So what if the Greeks were simply not able to stop the Persians? What if Mardonius would have more manpower to his disposition, and what if more Greek city-states sought the protection of Persia? What happens next is that Greece will be reorganized into a satrapy and merged into one province after some time. At first, most Greeks would be fine with the rule, and only the armies that lost would be enslaved, and not all the population as it's always claimed. Slavery was in some part even forbidden, and actually some Persian ideas could be somewhat interesting if we combine them with democracy. The rules and specific aspects of the different city-states would not really change much, except that they have to pay taxes to the Persian overlord and also respect his authority. Many Greeks could escape to the colonies, such as in Sicily or in all of Magna Graecia, and many would just hinder like this the expansion of Rome and Carthage, which will become important later on. It is, however, very likely that the Greeks would rebel, and at some point, they would have issues with the taxes and probably would start to break away or just be reconquered again by the Persians. Would the Persians remain forever in there? Well, no, of course not, because No empire can forever stay in one place or another. So, of course, there is also no Alexander the Great. He will be butterflied away. And some cultural achievements, especially between the Middle East and India too, they will just be butterflied away, because Greek influences in Buddhism and also parts of OTL Afghanistan would just not exist. Of course, no Christianity and no Islam, and serious impacts in China, especially also in India. Greece would be more united but struggle to find its place in the world scene. With the Persians gone, or at least drawn to their homeland, they could maybe reach out to parts of Anatolia and maybe even the Middle East. Probably bordering some new Egyptian empire, compete with Carthage and also maybe with Rome in Italy. Greece would ally with Egypt at first, and they would try to assert their dominance at least in the eastern Mediterranean. Carthage and Rome would collaborate at first to fight the several Greek states, which are in Sicily and south of Italy, and they would receive help of their Greek brothers. So there would be, of course, some alliance between, or at least some protection between the Greek city-states or Greek tiny states in southern Italy and also the more united Greece, if we can call it Greece. During this war, the Romans would try to not orientate themselves so much towards the Greeks and the Greek culture, so probably we would have a very different Roman culture, because if Greece, which was disunited for many times, especially in antiquity, was able to Hellenize many parts, and also Alexander the Great, who was not even there for such a long time, then I think it is very likely that cultures nearby would be easily Hellenized, because we just have so much proof in OTL how much Greek culture was dominating many areas once it started to appear in there. Rome and Carthage would later on get some problems, and Egypt would jump in and of course ally with Rome, trying to get Northern Africa, for instance, while Rome would get Sicily, and it would open up Iberia for Rome as well, Gaul, or well, France. And while the Greeks were a big force in the Balkans and Anatolia, and the Egyptians, the most dominant power in Northern Africa, well, they would not at first bother so much with the Greeks. The Greeks would later on border some type of Armenian and New Persian Empire. This New Persian Empire would give trouble to Egypt as well, while Rome and Carthage, they could then again take advantage of this situation. At one point, it is very likely that New Persia and Carthage take out Egypt, and maybe Greece and Carthage could paralyze Rome, inflicting some serious damage. Rome would be now locked, while Carthage could expand their trade empire, and Greece would be facing endless wars with Armenia, Persia, leaving it almost bankrupt. Now, this is also probably the most serious influence that will happen. The Germanic invasions, they would be very different. And the Germanic invasion would go towards Greece. While Rome could easily and actually defend themselves a bit better and bribe Germanic tribes because they would be not bankrupt, the Greeks, they would be in a very different situation. Of course, the Romans, they could still lose some territories, and if given the opportunity, even Carthage could take some Germanic people, so they could fight against the Romans. Greece would retrace back to the mountainous areas, and Greece, as well as part of the Anatolian coast, Cyprus and Crete, they would still stay strong in Greek hands. The Slavs, they could try similar as the Germanic people, but eventually they would immigrate to Rome, and create Slavic kingdoms in modern-day Belgium, France, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Germany, etc. As for the Arabs, they would destroy the new Persian Empire and take the Germanic parts of Anatolia, for instance. Arabs and Germanics, they would fight endless wars against each other, but they would be less united, the Arabs, due to no Islam. And the same would go for the Germanic tribes. There was just not this religion that would, unite them all. Carthage and Rome's capital would stay intact for the most part, because, well, for Carthage, it would be very difficult to conquer it, while also the Roman capital, would have a natural geography that would help them to protect their capital. So you have the area of mountains and the river, which are very good natural borders. The world as we know would be different, with a more Arabized Persia, a Germanized Balkans, a more Germanic Greece, while Western and Central Europe would become more Slavic, and Iberia, Italy would still be very Roman, with maybe some more Celtic influences. Carthage would continue being the number one for some time, until their system would become very obsolete, because they relied heavily on mercenaries, which at one point it would just not help them to stay number one. If democracy would become a thing and human rights too in that timeline, it would have a very strong Arabic and very strong Persian influence in that timeline. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment, support me also on Patreon, and join my forum, forum.planetalthistory.ga. Until next time on Planet Alt History.